This comes from the Message. Isaiah 35, 1 through 10. Wilderness and desert will sing joyously. The badlands will celebrate and flower. Like the crocus in spring, bursting into blossom, a symphony of song and color. Mountain glories of Lebanon, a gift, awesome Carmel, stunning Sharon, gifts. God's resplendent glory fully on display. God awesome, God majestic. Energize the limp hands, strengthen the rubbery knees. Tell fearful souls, courage, take heart. God is here, right here, on his way to put things right and redress all wrongs. He's on his way. He'll save you. Blind eyes will be opened, deaf ears unstopped. Lame men and women will leap like deer. The voiceless break into song. Springs of water will burst out in the wilderness. Streams flow in the desert. Hot sands will become a cool oasis. Thirsty ground, a splashing fountain. Even lowly jackals will have water to drink, and barren grasslands flourish richly. There will be a highway called the Holy Road. No one rude or rebellious is permitted on this road. It's for God's people exclusively. Impossible to get lost on this road. Not even fools can get lost on it. No lions on this road. No dangerous wild animals. Nothing and no one dangerous or threatening. Only the redeemed will walk on it. The people God has ransomed will come back on this road. They'll sing as they make their way to Zion, unfading halos of joy encircling their heads. Welcome home with gifts of joy and gladness as all sorrows and sighs scurry into the night. Do you like that? Yeah, it's pretty powerful. I anticipate seeing all of you on the Holy Road one day. But in this life, we often have sorrows and sighs, don't we? I'm wondering, do you have any sorrows and sighs today? You know, this is supposed to be the happiest time of the year, right? We're supposed to be filled with joy right now. And sometimes it doesn't quite work out that way. This time of Advent is a time when we are looking forward to the coming of Christ. And then at Christmas, we celebrate that coming as a child, as a baby. But we're busy, aren't we? It's a busy time of year. There's lots of demands on our lives. Sometimes our finances aren't exactly where we would like them to be. Sometimes we're struggling because of broken relationships, sorrows, and sighs. And when we have sorrows and sighs, joy tends to take a back seat, doesn't it? Our passage today says God is on his way to put things right. That's a pretty powerful promise, isn't it? It's a wonderful promise. It's a wonderful idea that somehow what we can't make right, God can and will make right. This long expected Jesus that we await, supposed to give us hope, supposed to give us joy. And when we understand what Christ has truly done for us, then we're more likely to have joy. Joy is something that can live and dwell within us as the indwelling of Christ dwells within us. We put on a happy face this time of year, right? If anybody asks you, how you doing? Oh, fine. Because you don't want to get into it, right? And because you're supposed to be happy, so you're going to put on appearances of being happy. And we continue to smile and try to show others that we're happy when we're not. Because we know we're supposed to feel this joy, and so we pretend. Now, there's something about joy that you need to know, and this isn't the first time we've talked about this, but it's not this surface level happy that we think about sometimes. Joy has nothing to do with smiles. It has nothing to do with laughter. It has nothing to do with an inner giddiness, That's not anything to do with joy. Joy is way more about peace. It's way more about peace. Deep-seated peace in our own character, in our own beings. And there's only one way that we can have that peace, and that's to have the indwelling of Christ. And that peace can come no matter what you're going through. Are you struggling with finances? You can have peace in spite of that. Doesn't make sense, does it? Are you struggling with health issues? You can have peace in spite of that. And it doesn't make sense. Are you struggling with loss or maybe worried about loss coming soon? My dear friend Jim, he can't talk anymore. He can't eat anymore. He doesn't have enough strength to do any of that. I think he can still hear us and understand what we're saying, but he is slipping away. The happiest time of the year. And he's slipping away. I can honestly say that it makes me really sad and that it hurts, but it doesn't steal my peace and it doesn't steal my joy. Why not? Because I have faith and I have hope. And I know Jim, he's going to be walking that holy road. I prayed to God that Jim would spend eternity in his happy place, out in the woods with a fly rod in his hand and a pond, that nobody else knows about. Hiking the trails with his wicker basket backpack that he carried from the 1930s, And that gives me peace to think about. So, you can enjoy, you can have joy simply by knowing Christ. Here's a few ideas about how we can experience joy. Set priorities. Set priorities. There's probably an awful lot of demands on your life, and there's things that multiple places that your money can go. But a few years ago, I got to take a trip to Seattle to see my grandkids out there. Now, I don't see them very often, and it's been a long time since I've seen them. And it costs a lot of money to go see them. Airplane tickets, hotels, rental cars, When I went to see them, I didn't have that kind of money to spend on all that. My income covers my expenses, but not all these extras, And so I spent the money because, you know what? You got to set priorities. It's important. I got to have my grandkids sit in my lap, and I got to read to them and spend time with them and get to know them and them get to know me. It was important. Still important. And yeah, it might have taken a little while to pay off the credit card, you know. Maybe a long while, I don't know. But I can't believe it's not worth it. If you want joy in your life, if you want to experience joy, you got to set some priorities in your life in order to experience that. The second thing is set boundaries. Now, you may have heard me say this before, but I'm always preaching to myself, okay? I'll just tell you, I let you listen in, but the conversation is this internal one going on in my head. Chris, you got to set some boundaries. We all want to be people pleasers, don't we? In fact, we tend to be people pleasers. And that idea of pleasing people is what drives us to do the things we do and make the decisions that we make. Because that means we've got to meet other people's expectations, right? After all, you are responsible for my happiness. And I understand that I'm responsible for yours. And so in that response, I'm going to do everything I can to try to make you happy. That's how we live sometimes, right? Except that's not the way it's supposed to work. I know, when you're young, you've got in-laws saying you will be here on Christmas Day at noon, right? And then your parents are also saying the same thing. You will be here on Christmas Day at noon. And you say, okay, so 2 hours to there, 2 hours with them, 2 hours. You're trying to figure out how you're going to squeeze all this stuff in one day. And it's too much. It's too much. You can't keep everybody happy. It's just not possible. Sometimes you've got to find another way to do it. Maybe this Christmas we'll spend with them, next Christmas we'll spend with them, or we'll spend Thanksgiving with you and Christmas with you, and next year we'll swap something to make it work, right? Because you just can't keep your joy if your whole life is pointed at making other people happy. Number 3, give back. When you give, joy is given and received. One of the things that I have always said, and we'll call it a Chrisism, if you will, but it's the truth and it's important. And that is that when you go with the intention of being a blessing, you will be blessed. You know that? It happens every time. If you give with the intention of being a blessing, you will be blessed. There's some reciprocity in that God just makes sure of. I've led a lot of mission trips, into hurricane areas where we rebuilt homes and did all kinds of things. And we would go with the intention of being a blessing to others, and somehow in the midst of all that, we walked away being blessed. And sometimes I think we were more blessed than they were. Give back. If you really want to have joy, if you really want to have peace in your life, give back. You will be blessed, and that blessing will bring you joy. And the fourth one is give of yourself. It's kind of the same thing, I guess. Give of yourself. One of the things that I was taught to do when I was young is that one of the Christmas gifts that you give is a homemade gift. And I know I mentioned this before. And so every year I'm out in the shop making Christmas gifts, for grandkids and what have you. Now here's the interesting thing. When you make Christmas gifts for grandkids who are in Seattle area, You take a little bit of wood and you take some glue and you take some time, and then it costs about 4 times as much to ship it as it did to make it. But you know what? I have this sense that those things will outlast me. When I'm gone, maybe they'll still be there. Maybe they'll be a reminder of a relationship, something special, a way to give of myself even when I can't be there. One year I made a Beezer. Now, Beezer was a rocking horse, only it was a donkey, and it had a big mane on it and a tail, and you sat on it to do rockers. I had to put it in a crate. I don't even want to tell you what it cost to ship that. One year I made birdhouse kits where I pre-drilled the holes where all the nails went and gave them instructions, and I sent paint and a hammer and nails and everything with it, so that they could see a little bit of me even when I couldn't be there. If you want to have joy for yourself, give a little bit of yourself. It's important. Find a way to touch other people's lives. On my parents' 40th anniversary, I wanted to do something really special with them. So I huddled with all my siblings, and we decided we were going to buy them a rental of a houseboat. So they always talked about all the fish they caught in Kentucky Lake. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Kentucky Lake, but Kentucky Lake is 100 miles long. So when you rent a houseboat on Kentucky Lake, you can do some traveling, And so we arranged and all chipped in, and we rented them this houseboat, luxury houseboat on Kentucky Lake for a week for their 40th anniversary. We thought we had done something really wonderful. And when they got back from their trip, my mom said to me, that houseboat had 4 bedrooms in it. Now, I didn't get it, I didn't understand. I was thinking this is like a honeymoon, I guess after you're married 40 years. But it would have been so much more fun, she said, if you all had come too. That's something. I never thought of that. It escaped me completely. If you want to have joy, give of yourself. Be there for others. Touch their lives in ways that, that they will really appreciate. We have a little bit of time today, so I am going to read you my sappy story, if I can get through it. It begins with a quote from Mother Teresa. It says, if you judge people, you have no time to love them. Kind of interesting. And it's entitled, Eric's Old Man. Our family was driving from San Francisco to Los Angeles on Christmas Day. That year, Christmas came on Sunday, as it does this year. And we needed to be in Los Angeles on Monday morning. Having spent Christmas Eve and Christmas morning with my husband's parents, we stopped for lunch at a diner in King City. I was enjoying a review of the happiness and meanings of the day when my reverie was interrupted. I heard Eric, our 1-year-old son, screaming with glee in his high chair. Hi there! 2 words that he thought were one. He pounded his fat baby hands whack, whack on the metal tray of the high chair. His face was alive with excitement, eyes wide, gums bared in a toothless grin. He wriggled and chirped and giggled, and then I saw the source of his merriment. A tattered rag of a coat, greasy and worn, baggy pants, both they and the zipper at half-mast over a spindly body, toes that poked out of would-be shoes, a shirt that had a ring around the collar all over, and a face like none other, gums as bare as Eric's, hair unwashed, uncombed, unbearable. Whiskers too short for a beard, but way beyond the shadows stage, and a nose so varicose that it looked like the map of New York. I was too far away to smell him, but I knew he smelled. His hands were waving in the air, flapping about on loose wrists. "Hi there, baby. Hi there, big boy. I see you, Buster." Eric continued to laugh and call, "Hi there." Every call was answered. I shoved a cracker at Eric, and he pulverized it on his tray. I turned the high chair. Eric screamed and twisted around to face his old buddy. The waitress's eyebrows were rising. Several diners went, ahem. This old geezer was creating a nuisance with my beautiful baby. Now the bum was shouting from across the room, "Do you know Peekaboo? Hey, look, he knows Peekaboo." The old guy was drunk. Nobody thought anything was cute. My husband was embarrassed. I was humiliated. Even our 6-year-old wanted to know why that man was talking so loud. We ate hurriedly and in silence, all except Eric, who continued to run through his repertoire with the bum. My husband rose to pay the check, telling me to meet him in the parking lot. I grabbed Eric and headed for the exit. The old man sat poised and waiting, his chair directly between me and the door. Lord, let me out of here before he speaks to me or Eric. I tried to sidestep to put my back between Eric and any air the old man might be breathing, but Eric, with his eyes riveted on his best friend, leaned far over my arm, reaching out with both arms in a baby's pick-me-up gesture. In the split second of balancing my baby and turning to counter his weight, I came eye to eye with the old man. His eyes were imploring. "Would you let me hold your baby?" There was no need to answer. Eric propelled himself from my arms into the man's and immediately laid his head on the man's ragged shoulder. The man's eyes closed, and I saw tears hover beneath his lashes. His aged hands, full of grime and pain and hard labor, gently, so gently, cradled my baby's bottom and stroked his back. The old man stroked and rocked Eric for a moment, and then opened his eyes and looked squarely in mine. He said in a firm, commanding voice, "You take care of this baby." And I said, "I will." He pried Eric from his chest, unwillingly, longingly, as though he were in pain. I held my arms open to receive my baby, and again the gentleman addressed me. "God bless you, ma'am. You've given me my Christmas present." If you want to have joy, give of yourself. God bless.